Hello everyone and welcome to the class. This is David A. Cox with PCClassesOnline.com, and today we are talking about many of the new features that you're going to find in OS X Yosemite. Now, one of the things I need to mention right off the bat in this class is the date. Today's date is October 17th of 2014, and that means that this operating system has only been out for 24 hours. And I mention that because, as we are all aware, technology does move very quickly, and what today may be a bug may be fixed tomorrow. That being said, there are a lot of bugs that I have found so far in Yosemite. And right now, as of today's date, I am warning our clients to not upgrade. That being said, I think there are quite a few handy features, and I think it's still worth it for you to take the time to watch this video so that when it becomes a good time to upgrade, that you already know how to use all of them. We're going to keep this video fairly short and just go over those key main features. So here we go. One of the things I need to make you all aware of, and this is very important that you know this before you upgrade, is that Yosemite is a bit of a RAM hog. What does that mean? Well, for anyone out there who's not familiar with this terminology, think of RAM as your kitchen countertops. So if you wanted to bake a cake, you would want all of your ingredients in front of you. That way you can very quickly put everything together and get the job done. Well, in computer terms, it would be like having your computer check your email while you're playing music and surfing on the web and maybe doing this or that all at the same time. Well, I need you to take a look and just see how much memory using this operating system requires. And I'm going to go right now into Spotlight and just pull up Activity Monitor to show you this. Now, on Apple's website, they claim that the minimum requirements for Yosemite is 2 gigabytes. But without running anything on my computer, and this is, I have my other account closed out right now. This is the only account that's active. The only software that's running, I will even quit out of Safari in the background. The only software that's running is the software that I use to be able to record this video. So if you look right here, without doing anything else, I only have 1 gigabyte free on my computer. So that doesn't leave me with a lot of playroom. If your computer has less than 8 gigabytes, you may want to hold off. And I have to say that I'm very disappointed with Apple that they went to all of these computers that are completely solid state. You cannot modify them. You cannot add additional memory later on down the road, whether you're in a MacBook Pro or a MacBook Air. With a MacBook Air, I understand it. You wanted to make it a really thin computer, and soldering was going to be part of that process. But 0 options doesn't work. And if someone has a computer that's older than, let's say, 2 years old, they may not really be able to go to Yosemite. So I had to at least throw that out there and say that Apple, I love your products, but I will call you out if you make this kind of a mistake. And this, in my opinion, is not good. Let's get out of that and let's go over the key features. How about that? First thing I want to do is point out one of the main features that I think will confuse people, but ultimately they will see as a good change. And to explain it, I'm going to go into Safari right now. Now, for those of you who have been familiar with the previous operating system on the Mac, known as Mavericks, you know that at the top right corner of pretty much any app in Mavericks, there was a little button that had 2 arrows pointing in opposite directions. And when you wanted to take that app and make it full screen, that was the button that you would click. So it would clear out the dock here at the bottom of the screen. It would clear out the menu bar so that the only thing that you were doing was whatever app you were in, whether it was Mail, your calendar app, etc. Well, that's been changed now. Now it's the green dot. And in many ways, I think that this is a very long overdue change, because you would think we have close, the red dot, we have minimize with the yellow dot. Doesn't it make sense that maybe the dot next to minimize would be maximize? I mean, Windows has been doing that since 1995. So yes, I think that's a very good change. Now, if you want to get out of full screen mode, that's important too. You can either hit the escape key in some applications, and in most that will work, or the other option is you can move your cursor to the very top of the screen. You'll see here that when you do that, the menu bar pops down. Click the green dot again, and it restores the window to the size that you left off. The next features that we're going to go over all have to do with system preferences. So let's go to the Apple icon and let's go into system preferences. The first thing we're going to do is talk here about general. Now, the second item you see here at the very top is the way that you can enable a new mode called dark mode, and it just changes it to dark. So the top menu bar and your dock are dark. This is going to be great for people who have some issues, vision issues, having to deal with contrast. But for a lot of people out there, I think this is going to be one of those settings that looks cool for about a week and then just isn't quite so cool. Look like the Macarena. So you can choose to use that or not. The next feature I want to mention, and this one confuses me why it would be located here, is that in the general menu is where you can change your default web browser. Traditionally, that has always been within the web browser. Now it's in the general menu, and you can choose to make your default web browser whatever you want. Another very strange thing that I discovered, last time I checked, Evernote and VLC are not web browsers, but for whatever reason, they seem to appear there. So if you want to try Evernote as your web browser, you may be somewhat limited. Love Evernote, but it's not a web browser. So I'll leave it on Safari for now. Next feature here we have towards the bottom, and that is the option to allow handoff between your Mac and your iDevices. Now, you've probably seen this feature demonstrated, whether on commercials or on the original Apple presentation. It allows you to start working on something, let's say an email, on one device, and then pick right back up where you left off on another device. I have found this part to be very, very buggy, and that's on multiple systems. So it's not just my computer, clearly. And what I found is it works actually very well in going from computer to iDevice, but not so much in the reverse. So again, this is probably a bug that will be fixed soon, but as of today's date, doesn't seem to be working correctly. So if you want to use that feature, what would theoretically happen is, let's say I had started an email on my iPhone. I would see a little icon here at the bottom left corner of my screen next to Finder, and it would indicate that an email was started on another device. I click on it. It has all of the text that I've already typed in, and I just continue where I left off. If you were to do it in the reverse, let's say you start an email on your computer. When you go to your phone or your iPad, when you're on the lock screen, you will notice a little icon at the bottom left corner. You would swipe up from there, and it will go into the app where you left off with the content that you last typed. So that's that. Now, to get out of this, we're going to click on this button here, which is to return to the main system preferences screen. And the next thing we're going to talk about is Spotlight. And I'm going to go over the preferences now. I'm going to actually demonstrate Spotlight in a little bit. But Spotlight did get a major overhaul. And for those of you out there who have maybe taken some of our other classes, especially the one on Alfred, which is one of my favorite apps, this you're going to find has a lot of the same features. Alfred has a few that are a little bit different, but Spotlight now has the ability to search beyond just your computer. And so in these Spotlight preferences, you can tell it exactly what to search and what not to search. And finally, I want to make a little mention. By the way, how funny is it that Bing is the web search here? Because last time I checked, isn't Bing owned by you-know-who? So another feature I do want to point out here is, let's just pretend that maybe on your computer you have a folder called, we'll just call it taxes. Whether or not it contains taxes, we don't need to talk about that. But let's say you don't want it popping up accidentally. Well, you can go here into the Privacy tab under Spotlight and add that folder so that when searching for items on your computer, that doesn't appear on the screen. Next feature we're going to talk about is Notification Center, and I will give them credit. Notification Center looks great now. Notification Center has Do Not Disturb mode, just like on your iPhone and your iPad. So if you don't want your computer to ding at 11 o'clock at night as the person sleeping next to you is trying to get some shut-eye, you can check this box and tell exactly what hours you want it to silence everything. And it just means that if someone, again, sends you an email, sends you an iMessage, or likes a Facebook post, it's not going to ding. It's just going to silence it. Another feature that's important for anyone who gives presentations or just generally mirrors their computer a lot on Apple TV. This feature here might be of interest to you. You can tell it to automatically go into Do Not Disturb mode when mirroring to a TV or a projector. Because the last thing you want to be doing is be giving a big presentation and then have a naughty text message pop up on the screen. Then again, I don't know where you work. Here where I live, that would probably get me a promotion. Moving on, the final feature we're going to talk about in System Preferences has to do with iCloud. We're not going to talk a lot about this because it's going to come up later, but I do want to mention iCloud Drive. iCloud Drive is a little bit like Dropbox if you're not familiar with that. Think of it this way. It's like a space on your computer, and anything you put in it, it is going to synchronize that data with a computer that's far, far away, probably in North Dakota. And so that data is going to be safe. So if your computer was stolen, or if you had a fire, or if your 4-year-old spilled apple juice on it, you can still get the data that was in iCloud Drive back, either on a different device or on a new computer. Or, frankly, by going to iCloud.com. And so what I wanted to mention about this is you will notice that within the iCloud preferences, we have a Options button. And the reason why I bring this up is that certain apps have the ability to save data there. And a lot of these, I think a lot of our viewers, a lot of our members probably won't care about. So if you don't care about Automator saving stuff there, you can uncheck it. Or for that matter, Preview, QuickTime, Script Editor, Text Edit, GarageBand, etc. Others are going to be handy, like Pages. Okay, very, very handy to have all of your documents accessible on the cloud so you can pick them up on any device. Or for that matter, again, by going to iCloud.com. So I wanted to mention that. If you ever need to add storage to your iCloud, it's very, very affordable. You just go here to this screen, go into Manage, and at the top right, there's a little button to buy more storage. And the paid options start at $1 a month for 20 gigabytes, which is still quite a bit of storage. So let's get out of System Preferences, and we're going to actually end up going back into Safari to talk about the next few features. One of the bugs that I discovered all across the board in Yosemite is that a lot of the preferences that I had set previous to installing Yosemite were for some strange reason just completely thrown out. For example, I have heard from people whose home pages were changed, or this one happened to me. My bookmark bar that you see up here at the very top was gone. So if you open Safari, for example, and you notice that your bookmark bar is gone, I at least want to show you how to get it back. All you have to do is go to View, and here in my case where it says Hide Favorites bar, if it was hidden, it would say Show. Just click that and it will come back. Very minor difference, you will notice that it is now center justified as opposed to being on the left. There are a few changes here to top sites, so let's go into that. We have sort of an icon view. I think this looks a little bit like an iPad screen here. But if you like the old version of top sites, if you look here at the top right-hand corner, you'll see we have a star icon. That's what we're on right now. But if you go here, you'll see the good old version of top sites. Again, if that's the kind of thing you like. We'll get out of that. Now, I do want to mention a couple of little things in Safari's preferences, which you of course would get to by going to where it says Safari at the top left and go here where it says Preferences. We're going to start with General. This was yet another place where I found that preferences changed on their own, so make sure that if you want a new window to open to your homepage that it's set to that, or whatever it is you may want. Moving over here to Search, I think Search was okay. Security, sorry, that's what I meant to do. Very strongly recommend that this option here is checked. And that's technically the same as it was in the previous version. I just always like to mention little security tricks for our users. So make sure that it gives you a warning when visiting a fraudulent website. An example of where that might happen, there's a ton of emails going out now, these fake emails. I get usually a couple a day saying, oh, your iCloud preferences have changed. Click here to sign in. And it's a fake email trying to look official, and it brings you to a fake-looking website that resembles iCloud.com, but in fact is not. It's just a trick to be able to steal your username and password. It's referred to as phishing. So I would strongly recommend you use that checkbox. Also here under Privacy, I would strongly recommend that you check this bottom option here to disable web tracking. Okay, just another great way to protect your own privacy. And on the topic of privacy, not to go off topic, but for anyone out there who is concerned about these kind of things with their internet privacy, I would really strongly recommend a video that we recorded probably about 6 months ago maybe on disconnect.me. It's a website extension and it just blocks everyone. It's a really great service, and best of all, it's free. So if you haven't checked that out, make sure you do so. You can find it, of course, either on our YouTube page or at pcclassesonline.com. Let's get out of this. Now, we're going to get out of Safari at this point and talk about a few other little features here. You can accept and also make phone calls from your Mac. So you'll notice that if you go down here to the FaceTime app, for example, there's now a little phone icon associated with it. You can make phone calls to anyone. Your phone does need to be basically in the same wireless network and preferably close. One of the things I have been noticing, and I tried it myself, and my colleagues have all reported the same thing. When you make a phone call from your Mac, your lips are not pressed against a microphone the way that they are when you're on a cell phone. So a lot of times people have reported that the audio quality when making a call from their computer has been fair to poor. So if you're going to make a phone call, especially if it's a business phone call or to your parents, please use your phone. One other little mildly annoying aspect of this is how on your iPhone, if you get an incoming call, you can hit any button on the side and it will immediately mute it. There is no way to do that on the Mac other than to actually hit the mute button. And if you're, say, in a library or an important meeting and you forget to hit mute on your computer, even if your phone's in your pocket, it's going to ring on your computer. So another feature that I really kind of wish there was an easier workaround for it. And what I would love to see, should any employees from Apple be watching this video, is if they were to make it that if you could hit any key on your keyboard, that would also mute the phone ring from ringing. The next thing I want to talk about is iCloud Drive. And the way you get into iCloud Drive is you click on Finder, and you should see it right here at the very top on the left. Now you'll see here I've created a few dummy folders, and you can do that just like you would create any folder. You can secondary click. We're talking Mac right now. Secondary click and hit new folder, and you can drag and drop whatever it is you want into those folders. A couple things I want to mention about this is that security is an emotion. Security is not real. And as much as I love the Mac because of the fact that the risk of viruses is so minimal, it doesn't mean that it's never ever going to exist. So even though iCloud Drive is considered a backup, I still recommend that you have an external hard drive, use Time Machine, which is built into your Mac. Yes, we have a class on it. And save your data that way too. Now, if you don't have an external hard drive, one little tip I would like to give is that not all hard drives are made equally, in my opinion. The drives that we recommend you will find on pcclassesonline.com. There's a little store button at the top right-hand side corner. It just basically directs you to Amazon, but the very specific models that we recommend. Next thing I want to go over has to deal with the calendar. Let's go into that real quickly. This is yet another example of where preferences seem to have changed on their own. So if you go into your calendars, and let's say you have a bunch of different calendars here and some you had turned off, it seems that by installing Yosemite, it immediately activates all of them. So if you didn't want birthdays, you have to turn it off again. It's nothing major, but just another example where preferences seem to be changing themselves to whatever Apple wants the default to become. So just go through this list here, and if you have additional items, just uncheck them. The next feature has to deal with iMessages. And for anyone out there who is either a parent, a grandparent, or anyone who has a parent or a grandparent, you're going to love this feature. So a new feature that's built into iMessages, and please understand this only works from a computer to a computer. It does not work from computer to iPad, is you can now remotely share your screen, and you can even control the screen. So let's say you have a parent who needs a little bit of tech support. This here is a conversation with my assistant. Okay, up here where it says details, You can click on that. You'll see this kind of an icon right here. It looks like two boxes, and that will give you the option to either share your screen with them or ask permission for them to share their screen with you. Now, when they do that, let's say they are sharing their screen with you. In order to take control of someone else's screen, you would see that same icon up here in the top menu bar. And when you do that, you'll be very, very clear which one it is. It just says request to take control. But very great feature for anyone who needs really quick tech support or just shown quickly how to do something. Next, we're going to talk about Spotlight. So Spotlight, which you'll see right up here at the top right, you'll notice has a lot of new features. And I think these very much resemble the same things that you can now do on the iPhone or the iPad, which is basically you're taking search beyond just your device. So you can, yes, of course, still search for files on your computer, but you can also search for things on the web. You can search for music available for purchase, apps in the App Store, movies that are playing near you. You'll find showtimes and movie trailers and all that jazz. Also, restaurants. It talks to the Maps application. One little tip I would like to give you, for any of you out there maybe who are small business owners, an important piece of information that you should be aware of is that the information that pulls from Apple Maps is actually coming from Yelp. So if you are trying to get reviews from your clientele, I would really strongly recommend that you try to direct them to leave reviews on Yelp. Now, how Yelp works as a search engine is a whole different story. Basically, if you're a new user, it completely ignores your review. So you really need to target people who are power users or have left quite a few reviews. So that's my little spiel on that. Next, while we're up there, let's go over Notification Center. You'll see here, it looks really, really clean. It's very good. You've got your stocks here, weather. The weather is now coming from the Weather Channel. No longer is it pulling from yahoo.com. So that's a little improvement. Also at the top, you can now manually enable Do Not Disturb mode. Okay, and if you do that, it'll turn off whenever you would normally have set Do Not Disturb mode to turn off. So it's not going to just stay on all the time. The final few features that we're going to talk about have to do with iTunes, which got a few new features here. Some people are going to love it, others maybe not so much. I will be open and honest with you and tell you that I am not a fan. So when you go into iTunes, you're going to notice that, once again, it is a very graphical look. For those of you who have been a fan of kind of the older version of iTunes, in the past, I've shown you little tricks for how to tweak iTunes to make it look like the older version. A lot of that is now gone. I'm going to give you one little trick here if you want to make it somewhat resemble, but unfortunately, there's not a lot that I can do. When you first open up iTunes, this is going to be the kind of screen that you're going to see, and it's going to be on this tab here called My Music. What I'm going to recommend that you do is, first of all, where it says albums up here at the very top right, I would switch that over to songs. And where it says playlists over here towards the top center, I would select that, and you're going to have to do it yet again. Switch back to songs. So now it looks a little bit like that traditional version of iTunes, still with some changes. You do have your playlists here on the left-hand side. However, the iTunes Store is now up here at the top. You have iTunes Radio next to that. If you want to switch between music and movies, TV shows, podcasts, each one is a different button up here at the very top. So you'll have to go into that, and you'll notice that as you do, that little playlist, that little sidebar does go away. So some people may not mind that. Personally, I do. And then also another feature I want to mention is when you go into the preferences for iTunes. I found this very strange, and I have yet to really figure out how this plays with everything. When you go into Preferences, go here into Store, and you'll notice that now at the bottom, there's a thing for Limit Ad Tracking. First of all, I always question why the word limit. Why can't you say no ad tracking? So clearly, it's tracking our purchases for some reason. Within iTunes. And I'm sure it's for marketing purposes, but my recommendation, I tend to be a fan of privacy. I would recommend that you check this box. And that's the main changes that you're going to find here in iTunes. Before we go here, I just have to give my little piece about this. I love Apple as a company. I think they do great work. They've done great humanitarian work. They treat their employees, for the most part, very, very well. And they have been leaders in innovation. But one of the things that I always used to really admire about them is that if a product was not ready for the public release, they had the balls to not release it. And in this particular case, they failed. At least in my eyes, they failed. Because this operating system is not ready for public use. This is still beta quality, and this is part of the reason why I personally don't partake in beta, is that you deal with these issues of reliability. There's a few other little things that you should know about issues that are being now discovered about Yosemite. One being that if you use multiple accounts and you switch back and forth for whatever reason, sometimes it will log out of an account, not just simply switch. Another is some people are reporting really, really long amounts of time for it to start up, like many minutes. In my case, I did not have that issue. My boot up time was about 15 seconds. So for me, that was not a problem. Colleagues of mine were not quite so lucky. Other issues I did want to at least make you aware of. iWork 09 will no longer work. Yahoo Messenger will not work. Some versions of Parallels will no longer work. So if you have a version of Parallels, which runs, of course, the Windows operating system as well as other virtual machines on the Mac, please make sure that the version you have is compatible with Yosemite. Another thing I found very frustrating, I use external speakers, so when I hit the volume plus button, normally as I would do this, it would give me a little ding noise to indicate how loud it is. So when I play music, I don't blow my eardrums. That little ding noise is gone. Okay, my speakers are on right now. You would all be able to hear this if it was still active. That's all gone. So that's just a few examples of some of the issues that I'm seeing here. This operating system was not ready for the public. So as much as I love Apple, I will not recommend Yosemite to any of our clients yet. One day, I'm sure I will. But as of today's date, October 17th of 2014, This is David A. Cox with PCClassesOnline.com. Class dismissed.